What was absolutely hilarious about watching this episode of Beastars is the first few minutes with our boy here. He's basically gun pointed at his dad. Is he going to get out of school or not? I was watching this content with Louis and his father, and I was thinking to myself, this is without a doubt my favorite aspect of Beastars. Louis, I just want to focus on him 24/7 when we're watching a Beastars episode. And then we switch over to Legoshi, right? And I'm thinking to myself, I don't hate the wolf at all. I think he's an amazing character. I love the relationship with Haru and him and the murder mystery. But with how much I love the intro of the content, I was like, man, I really hope we get to focus back on Louis more this episode. And by the midway point of this episode, I was forgetting that I even wanted to see more Louis content because this episode reminded me why the big bad wolf is such a great protagonist. Beastars, I sound like a broken record, is absolutely mind-blowingly insane. I cannot believe how much I enjoyed this season. I literally walked into season 2 with such high expectations because of how much I adored season 1. And they're knocking out of the park every single week what I think I know, what I want to see, and it's amazing. I do want to talk a lot about the Louis content, but I've done so quite a bit at the beginning of the reviews as of late, so let's talk about Legoshi and how he has no chill. Not only does he go up to a girl who has a crush on him, has admitted to having a crush on him, he is so oblivious that he actually asks to see her fangs, to examine them, to the point that she knows, like, he's manipulating my feelings. We know from his perspective, he's just a big dolt. He's a clueless idiot sometimes. He doesn't understand feelings because he is that teenage virgin who's just trying to grow up and figure out life while dealing with murder mysteries and basically big bad lions wanting to kill him in the black market. But still, how he has no chill to the point that it builds up such romantic tension and sexual tension that she's saying he can do whatever. And he's like, females have different fangs. Alright, later. If that wasn't bad enough, that was already enough to make me say, I love you, my man, but you have no chill and need to read a room. He does something even better to Haru. I love the Haru content in this episode. How she comes up, she's pouting, she's sulking, saying, you're making me feel lonely. And he's having to question himself, saying maybe this wasn't the right direction. And he just casually says, let's get married. And she is so dumbfounded, as per the viewer. And I'm thinking, are we in Tonikawa over the moon for you right now? Why are we getting marriage before hand-holding, basically? Like, what's going on here? And I love how she storms off. I love how she throws it in his face. I love how it blows up. But the fact that they didn't leave it there and they actually showed that Haru's past her stage of basically randomly sleeping with whoever comes her way and has declined offers saying like there's someone my heart is set on. This was like the absolute perfect way to take what happened in season 1 and where the relationship kind of stalled in season 2 and say things are progressing. While sometimes it's easy to forget because Legoshi's saying he's going to get stronger and him and Haru seemingly are at this like maybe a breaking point. Does she still have feelings for Louis or not? And then this happens in such a comedic fashion that symbolizes that, yeah, they probably will get to marriage someday. But first, let's get to dating. And at the very least, even if it's not face-to-face because they're both a little stubborn, she does admit that she has very deep feelings for our boy, and that's amazing development. Hilarious episode. I mean, seriously, I feel bad for Juno, I gotta admit. As much as I love punching bag characters, it feels bad for the girl because she's thinking he's just someone who's like a playboy at this point, understands that he's manipulating feelings and things, but he's really just trying to solve a murder mystery here, and she's honestly the short end of the stick of basically getting her heart toyed with. It's the simple moments in anime that make you really appreciate an episode, and Legoshi knocked it out of the park, and even outside of the funnier moments that still progress the plot trying to figure out the fangs, and even at the end of the episode seeing he has no jaw strength anymore based on his new training, it really seems like it's been draining him. I mean, he couldn't even bite into an apple, which is saying a lot because this is like the perfect opportunity to figure out which one of these beasts are responsible for nearly killing him and did kill Tem. But of course, you know, we're only halfway through the season, we gotta drag it a little bit longer, and it makes sense given his training and how much he's been changing in this episode and even the season in general. But the fact that he's actually grown to the point after the whole sheep conversation last week, and how he's now to the point that he can touch meat, he can smell meat, he can bury the meat that he got from the black market, learns about the names before he bought the meat. The fact that he's to the point of not looking at it as herbivores and carnivores, but just looking at it as people, basically. It's a very simple realization, but I think it's the difference of those who judge others because of the difference of color of their skin, their faith, things like that. Rather, he's come to the point that he realizes that one of his biggest hurdles is to simply stop viewing them as herbivores and carnivores, but just as animals, basically, or people in the case of the story here. And I love that about the show, is that they took a pretty realistic approach for him kind of covering that first stage, overcoming that first stage, while still kind of feeling like maybe he's regressing in a certain sense. On one hand, he's maturing quite a bit emotionally, but the thing that he needs is his strength, and it feels like that's dwindling based on the training. So in terms of gaining something, he's also leaving and losing it all at the same time. Such interesting storytelling, and I'm really excited to see where his story is going to go, and it really rejuvenated my love for his perspective after having so much amazing Louis content. But Louis' content in this episode, amazing. I love how it wasn't actually a withdrawal, it was more of a temporary leave, because the father threw it in his face and did the biggest balls move I think he could have done. I didn't think he would pull the trigger, but there was the possibility, and the fact that he went the direction of saying, this is like the first time that I've really kind of felt something, because he kind of was from a distance, they've had a very distant relationship, and the fact that he's able to pull it in his face saying like, you definitely are a great actor, and there's so much tension, there's so much hostility, but there's almost like this mutual respect that the father sees him as doing something that's very impressive, but he knows he's probably not going to stick with it forever. There's no way he's going to pull the trigger. I love that hostility, I love that tension, and I love the idea of Louis trying to find his place, but is so confused with so many things peering down at him. And that simple scene with the bar before he says he's going to keep pushing forward, I think was a great way to tie it all together. I'm just stunned by Beastars. It's incredible, the writing's amazing, the presentation's godly, the voice actor's knocking it out of the park. I'm excited to rewatch with the dub since the first season's dub was quite good itself, but seriously, this is just one of those shows that's improving in time like a fine aged wine. Like, this is outstanding. It's funny, maybe the best episode of season 2, just for the humor, the way it progressed things, but the way it also amplified with such great tension at the beginning, but then ended in such heartbreak, but having so much comfiness surrounding it, while honestly progressing Haru and Legoshi's relationship so well. I definitely think the second season of this show is definitely going to be one of those things that might be initially slept on a bit more, just because obviously there's the Netflix delay, and I mean everyone who's watching it right now are doing so through not so legal means, because I mean Netflix is kind of forcing our hands. But I'm really hoping though when it does drop, like the international fans who love season 1 will love it, because generally Netflix is good when they do release something in terms of promoting it. Because I honestly think that this is a show that, should it remain as popular as it is, I really think will have such an interesting perception outside of Japan, because this is a show that if you would have asked me in season 1, would it have a big following outside Japan? In certain groups, sure, but I wouldn't say it could be something that's closer to mainstream. But I think it could get there, if I'm being honest. Maybe it's too bold to say, but I love the idea that this is a show that connects so personal with general humanity, and the way they use these anthropomorphic designs is not too much without going too little all at the same time. Even though I hate Netflix's release strategy, I do think it being on Netflix in the long term will probably keep it more popular in the mainstream eye than it would on something like, say, Crunchyroll or Funimation. It's kind of a love-hate relationship. If they would just release it weekly outside of Japan, that would be amazing. It would solve all issues. But thinking about what the story is tackling right now, without a doubt, I think this is a show that's going to garnish a bigger following than if it would have been on a different platform, especially based on the topics that they're handling. Great stuff though. I'm really excited to see what the fans are going to think about this season when it's over, especially when the dub is released and more people can watch it, because I think it'll be a very interesting fandom to follow going forward. Outstanding episode, close to perfect if I'm being honest. But let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. What did you think, and what was your personal favorite moment down below? Casual marriage drops will always get a kick out of me, so that's probably my favorite, but let me know yours. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, share your support, and hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.